that you saw did not happen. Right, let's roll. So, welcome to the Everyfin Arena podcast. I'm Sam.
I'm Walker.
Boris is...
I'm Storm Square.
and we have Keludar.
Keludar.
Yeah.
Keludar, yeah, whatever.
just whatever you would like to be called. Yeah, so we have Keludar with us as well. Okay, so we're going to kick off with our experiences with the new meta. Who wants to go first? Go on then, Boris.
Yep.
Yeah, I haven't experienced as much of the meta as I'd like to. But what I've seen so far is that games go longer. There's a lot less early game and even mid game. A lot less cards are played.
Okay.
Discovering things is really great now because you can find your answers and even win conditions on the spot.
Yeah, it's much more of a value meta now, isn't it? Much more of a value meta. I'm finding that sort of early game we're curving out less, which is what we discussed in our sort of thoughts before this came about. So yeah, you're hitting fewer twos. Like twos are a nightmare to draft now, and unless you get super lucky, we are struggling with twos. So it means that the games are slower, definitely, because you're kicking off what was turn 2 now is kind of turn 3. So you're playing into AoEs earlier if you're looking for snowballing, or basically classes who are playing slower have got not necessarily longer to react because the 3 drops are still being played in turn 3, but they're not taking the damage from the 2. They haven't got the extra tempo to deal with from the 2, so it generally supports a slower meta, which, like you're saying, makes it much more values based. And again, Discover's super good because in a value meta, you're looking for dealing with stuff as efficiently as possible, and Discover's can give you answers to stuff.
Yeah. On the other hand, playing Discovers on Curve might be bad, especially the Cabal Courier. Because usually you could play it on turn 3 just to contest your opponent's 3-2. But people are missing 2 drops so often that if you play it on turn 3, it just deals 2 face damage and then gets eaten by your opponent's 3 drop.
Yeah.
And you're also losing out. You're losing out on value because you're not. We kind of discussed this before the cast, but you're not actually getting you don't know what answer you need yet necessarily. So you're losing out on value overall too.
Yeah.
Might be looking for, if you know your deck needs a win condition from that Discover, you might pick that early on. I did have a match with a mage where I got offered Holy Fire, Lord Jiraxis, and I don't know what the other card was. But the Holy Fire would have been the immediate answer to a threat on my opponent's side of the board at that turn. And I was hesitant taking the Holy Fire, solving that problem, also getting health back. But I knew if I deal with that problem now, that's fine, but I won't win the game because I don't have the win condition. So I took 15 more face damage and played Jiraxis and actually won that game. But it was kind of a counterintuitive decision on that turn. Yeah.
I think identifying win conditions in draft, it's always been important, but I think here it's just as important as it always was, but your win conditions are now different generally. Fair enough, you might play with Rogues and Hunters can sort of get under the meta, but they're still going to be punished by AoE, stuff like that. So I think, you definitely have to have different win conditions in mind when you're drafting now. If you're going for a slower meta, you definitely want a lot more later game. You don't necessarily go for as much early game because if your opponent's not likely to play a 2-drop, then you probably don't need a 2-drop to contest it. Then you win by going late game and having fatter minions, more removals than your opponent. So I think that's interesting.
Yeah, I think with I think I would say that for me, I've probably watched more Arena than I've actually played it. I've at the end of my work shift or whatever, I'd watch it on Twitch or whatever. I think one thing I've noticed is that before, there's just so many games that go to top decks that weren't before. I've just watched so many games that go to late value now that they just never even got close to that before. Where before, you would see if you had a good draw, like you might be able to kill someone by turn like 5 or 6 if you just had an insane tempo. Mm-hmm. I just have not seen a snowball game like that yet. I haven't even watched one. I've been waiting. Is it even possible to like aggressively just take someone out? And I honestly have not. I'm sure it's possible. I just haven't seen. I've watched a lot of games and I haven't seen that happen yet. So I just haven't seen that snowball start actually able to finish somebody off yet. So that's been interesting.
I have drafted a rogue on NA that's fairly aggressive, and it has got the curve. I haven't played it yet, so I can't tell if it actually works. But just by analyzing the deck and how it will play, I think it would work, because the games I've experienced with slower decks so far, I would have gotten completely crushed by an opponent who curves out with strong cards. And that rogue deck has 2 Lotus Assassins, which are stealth, and stealth is really valuable in this meta with all these spells and removals. Because oftentimes I found myself sitting there with 3 spells in hand, and my opponent doesn't have anything on board. He drops Stranglethorn Tiger, and I am sitting there and thinking, "Fuck! I'll have to pass my turn or ping his face because I don't want to give him a minion he just eats with the Tiger if I can kill the Tiger with a spell in 1 hit."
Yeah, I think those drafts, like you're saying, the faster drafts do come about less often.
Yeah,
definitely. But I think the classes which can do them are Rogue and Hunter, because they've got the opportunity to play well, sort of tempo-wise. Hunter's got a good number of class 2 drops, stuff like that. I think they are the 2 classes which can go faster. But I think your standard basic level of draft, on average, is slower, definitely, even for those classes.
Yeah.
So, who are your winners for this one? What classes are you feeling are better? Which ones are you feeling are worse?
This is okay. So this was my prediction. I haven't got to play test it yet, but I think that I'm not saying it'll be tier 2 or anything. I think Druid's going to actually be way better in this meta, because I'm a pretty experienced arena Druid player. I feel like that's actually my strongest class. That's not one of the best ones. You know, like obviously everybody's good at Mage and Rogue, but I'm actually really good at Druid, and any slow meta for me has been really good for Druid. So I think Druid will. I don't know if it'll go as higher like the 5th or 6th. I don't know, but I think it definitely is going to be better than I expected. I guess I can say.
Yeah, I'm still not so convinced about Druid. I think we discussed a lot in our before the meta change, and I think I stand pretty heavily by what we sort of felt was going to come.
I think for me, Paladin would probably be just a little bit higher than we did put it.
Really?
Simply because I've seen a lot of people doing good with Paladin, and I've seen a lot of decent Paladin decks out there as well.
Yeah.
I would still put Paladin pro. Well, I think I'd still start with Mage being top. Are we all in agreement with Mage being top?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mage / Warlock.
But I have to admit, Mage is not, or at least the one I drafted and what I saw from my opponents, Mage isn't as strong as I thought it would be, because a lot of their spells they get offered are crap. I got offered what's it called? Freezing potion on every other common pick. So you're basically just losing options on your the rest of your picks there, and also secrets oftentimes aren't great. You don't see flame strikes that often in a slower meta. Even the volcanic potion doesn't often do enough if your opponent just plays bigger stuff, and also just as you misses his early game. So you will have to fight for the board with minions and then clear up with the volcanic potion, which is hard because it's a double-sided effect there. It's strong, but it's not as overpowered as I first expected it to be.
I think cards-wise, it's still got really decent cards, but I think its hero power really gets a chance to shine in this meta as well. It's a hero power which pings. It doesn't cost you any health. You generate card advantage simply by pinging, which other classes can't do. Other classes have to spend a card to do that damage, or spend at least part of a card. So that's one thing which really does help the mage. Which, similarly to the Warlock generates card advantage again through its hero power. Tapping, generating cards is insane for it. So I think that's that's why we reckoned they were going to be the better classes, because they had a fairly decent card pool. I think Warlock's card pool is probably better than the mage's. Especially with the epics and stuff like that, but the mage has got like so many half decent spells that you're bound to pick up some more right things, and then the hero powers are just so strong. So I think the other tier 1 class that we reckoned there was Rogue, and I think I still stand by that. Like, Rogue seems fairly good when I've seen it played, when I've played it myself. It might not use its sort of tempo starts like it used to, where you would do sort of backstab into SI and everything felt really, really good, but it just doesn't do those quite as early, but it can still get the swings just a turn or so later. Obviously, its hero power is not quite as good as it gets later game, but I think it still gives you a class which plays tempo very well in this meta, whilst it still can get the value potentially through your discovers and such.
Yeah. With Paladin, I also was a little bit surprised. The one I drafted on the first night performed way better than I would have expected it. And that depends on the draft to some point, because you get offered the early game weapons a lot more often, like Rallying Blade and Argent Lance. And this helps you to control the early game and compensate for the lack of 2 drops, and also in Paladin 3 drops.
Yeah.
So it did lose a lot of its power cards, and you don't see the pseudo removal cards like Keeper of Uldaman that often anymore. But yeah, having those rare weapons offered more regularly definitely helps Paladin.
Yeah.
But it's still not a great class in this meta.
That's one thing we can't confirm, because we weren't sure about that in the last podcast, was that weapons definitely do not limit spells. So the offering bonus offered to 2 spells does not affect weapons. So we are seeing them less often than spells, but they're still decent. So then going to tier 2, sorry Keludar, have you got any points you want to discuss on Mage or Warlock or Rogue?
I mean, I think Warlocks is so good because it's weird. Although they lost Abyssals, or as many of them, I guess, the fact that the meta is slow, it means their hero power just gets even stronger because they don't have to worry about face damage as much as they did before. They have more time to basically protect themselves with they don't even need taunts, just to protect themselves with minions. And that just makes them, I mean, even so much more powerful than the last meta, in my opinion. So, yeah, that's about all I have to say about those.
Yep, agree.
No, cool, sounds good. Going into tier 2, I feel like you've got Shaman in there. What else? I can't even think off the top of my head. We've got Shaman sitting tier 2. Priest, I would say, sits in tier 2. And Hunter.
I think I put Priest at 4 and Shaman at maybe 5. I put Priest at 4. I don't know about Shaman and Hunter because I haven't really got to play them. But I do think Shaman for me is, I guess I didn't really think it through, but Shaman's definitely performing better than I anticipated, for sure.
Yeah.
I've enjoyed our Shaman then.
I thought Shaman's
I did.
good.
Yeah, I've been surprised.
I think go on, Boris.
Yeah. I haven't played Shaman myself. On the first night I played, I faced a lot of Shamans, which did have strong decks, but I think playing Shaman in Arena is something that you need a lot of experience, because with all the overload stuff, there goes a lot of turn planning for future turns, like three to 4 turns ahead goes into your playstyle. And most of the Shamans I faced was at pretty early in the run, like at 2 to 5 wins.
Yeah.
And I don't think they played particularly well, given the card quality of their deck, because they didn't handle their overload very good. But I think just by card quality and the cards you get offered in the draft, Shaman's pretty strong right now.
I feel that in the hands of a decent player who's comfortable Shaman.
Yeah.
I think Shaman sits. I think for me, it's a comfortable 4. But I would say definitely sort of in the second 3, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
From 4 to 6.
Definitely in the second tier.
Tier 2. Yes. Well, I think we basically we split them up into 3 tiers, didn't we?
Yeah.
Sort of tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 was how we went about it. And we reckon Shaman was probably going to be top of 2. I know Keludar was saying that it feels maybe not quite as high, but I think we're still pretty much in agreement that tier 2s.
A lot more finders keepers now as well.
Where
a lot more.
I hate that card.
It's not the best of cards, but it's still one of those cards. It's cheap to find what you need.
It's a card that really Shaman needs. It might not be the best value out of all the discovers, but man, does it help them out.
Well, this is
I agree.
For me, it's Stormcrack. It's Stormcrack. That's pretty much what you look for. You're going, right, I could really do a Stormcrack now.
Well, it's really not though, is it? It's the fact that it is a discover, and
yeah,
a lot of it is direct damage, but there's other bits and bobs you can find, fatties, stuff like
Look
that.
Look at how nice it was discovering Feral Spirit. Oh, that was fantastic.
That worked really well, yeah. But that's what discovers are all about, is to give you the option, and if you can hold them off until you need the answer, they generally sort of give you better. They're a better card if you hold them until you need the option, if you can afford to play them anyway.
Well, yeah. I just saw an example. My friend had a deck last night that had he had 3 Master of Evolutions, 2 Evolves, and some Jade mechanic. And I'm telling you what, it was pretty. He didn't even have that much Jade. He had 2 Jade Lightnings, and I think he had 4 cards that were Jade. But obviously Jade. What do you call it? What's the one that goes woohoo? What's that called? The Jade
Idol.
Whatever.
Jade Idol. No,
not Jade Idol.
Spirit, sorry, that's it.
Yeah, the Jade Spirit evolving that gives you a 5 and whatever comes out. So I think that's a card that really helps them out, Master of Evolution, because it's offered more and you can trade and heal basically by getting a bigger minion. That's a pretty strong card for them right now.
Yeah. What was the sound it made again? Sorry, Keludar.
Woohoo! I don't know, something like that.
Yeah. In general, I think that discovery in this meta hugely benefits the better players.
Yeah.
Because drafting a deck isn't that hard if some website just tells you which cards to pick.
Yeah.
I mean, you basically could auto draft, have your decks auto drafted, but making those in-game decisions with discovery is where better players still can shine and rise above the rest.
Yeah, I definitely think it's an area where, at least Blizzard, now there's a mechanic now in the game where the skill level actually does matter a little bit more. I agree with you on that one for sure.
Yeah. For the rest of tier 2, I think we're Priest and Hunter. How have I've re-experienced those? I've enjoyed Hunter.
I've enjoyed Hunter, and I've not really seen much Priest.
We haven't played a Priest, and that's true. I haven't seen very many. I enjoyed Hunter a lot, and I think Hunter did seem to hit its 2 drops fairly often. You have stuff like Kindly Grandmother and Trog Beast Rager, which have been really, really clutch in a few games. We had a lot of Shaky Zip Gunners, which were contesting 4-3s.
We had one.
We had a deck with 2.
Did we?
Pretty sure. We've run at least 2 Hunter decks as well, because we had one with the Gladiator's Longbow and one with the Call the Wild, which was the other point, is that the Epics
Call the
Hunter,
Wild. Oh,
the
yeah.
Epics and Hunter are so premium, and because there's
They
no
are.
duds, you find them so more often when they're offered. It's not like you're going, oh, here's an Enter the Colosseum, or here's Mind Games, or something like that. It's decent cards. And then on top of that, you got Savannah Highmane, which I think both decks have had a Savannah Highmane that we drafted.
Yep, and we've discovered them a good few times.
Yeah. I don't think the odds have changed for Discover,
Yeah.
but you have got a smaller pool because of the lack of GVG and I can't even think, Naturamus, of course, yes. But yeah, I've found Hunters be fairly alright.
Yeah, even the Piranha launcher on the Epic
I was just thinking
slot,
that.
Yeah.
it's an amazing card right now because you get to get full value out of that card, even if you only do hit face five times and spawn those 1/1s, because it's basically like an extra hero power.
Yeah.
You get you get to play your bigger stuff on curve and still pushing those 2 face damage every turn.
Yeah.
I think also with Piranha Launcher, the other thing that's underrated about that card is you play it, and the following 3 turns, a beast is guaranteed to be on the board. So you can buff it with a Houndmaster, you can play a kill command, and still play something else. You know what I mean? So there's a lot of flexibility with that card. So I think it's really good.
Yeah. No, I've really felt Hunter. Has anybody had any priest experience?
Yeah, I mean, I was.
Stop laughing.
Yeah,
I
no,
told you not to go there today.
No, my second priest run, I had a deck that only had like two drops. But
Walker's line of thinking just hit me. Yeah.
No, but
it took me a while to process it in not my native language. So yeah.
You're thinking it one way, yeah. I think priest. I was surprised. Like I had about a couple board clears and no early game. No, I didn't even have 3 drops. It was like basically hero powering until 4, and I got 9 wins pretty convincingly. Like I was shocked. I thought the deck would get like 3 wins when I saw it, but like by being able to like utilize the value of the clears and stuff, I was able to like basically I had Cro-Magnus. It was like my big win condition, and I was basically able to use other big minions to draw out. Basically, wait till there was a top deck mode, and then Cro-Magnus comes out, and it's like, what is he going to do now? Now the game is just, I win it automatically at that point, you know.
That's
so I think
potions. Oh shit.
Yeah.
Well, I know
yeah.
Go on.
Oh no, go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, you were saying as well, before we started streaming, you were talking about you had a game where you literally did nothing other than play a Worgen Infiltrator until turn 5, and instead of playing minions, you were actively just waiting to get Valley out of the Excavated Evil, and that's something you can totally afford to do in this meta.
Yeah, I mean, I had the Worgen out and I had the coin, and I'm like, I basically coined Excavated on 4, and I was like, this is going to be perfect, because I'm like, there's nothing he can play that I'm not going to be able to clear off, and I'll basically end the game with card advantage, and so that's exactly how the game went. Yeah. So
because of the lack of 2s and stuff like that, it doesn't mean you can play slow, and you can potentially, for classes like Priest, get bigger swings out of your cards.
Yeah, and I also knew that with the 4/3s, I mean, he actually played on curve even. He's not like he missed plays. He actually had a 1, 2, 3 the whole way, and I just completely cleared him and then won. So
yeah, so you're instantly making 2-card advantage there. And again, that's the benefit of not drafting as many lower cost cards, because you don't hit those as studs later into the game. So when you're in sort of like turns 10, whereas your opponent might be drawing 2 3s, 1 drops, 3 drops, because you've gone a lot sort of slower, you're more consistently hitting 7 drops, 8 drops, 6s, utility cards, discovers, all that sort of stuff, which just works much better.
Yeah.
Cool. And then going into bottom tier, I think we were saying Paladin, which you think hovers a little bit, or I think
Paladin, depending on what you're offered, really, it's gonna be on that little line between second and third tier at the minute. It can drop above. It can drop above. It can rise above, but it can drop below as well.
But yeah, but I think you take the depending on what you're offered down as you still just consider them as an average, don't you? Because you can have any class with an insane offering deck, and it's insane.
But you won't let us add another tier for Paladin. I just want that extra little bit of just so it's in the middle.
Just a buffer.
Yeah, just that little bit of.
I'm thinking about 7th for Paladin personally, and then Druid, and then Warrior, of course, which is really struggling. I know, Kelly, are you saying that you find you've been doing better with Druid?
I think well, it's like I said, I feel like I'm a very experienced player with Druid. It's my only golden class, and I've played Druid probably more than most people have in Arena, and I think that the way you win with Druid is basically you have to get a little bit lucky, but you have to basically get innervates. You have to basically draft big and then basically tempo out early. I guess that doesn't work as well now in some ways, but I think that they have a lot of, in their pool of cards, their class cards, they have a lot of value minions like Ironbark and big cards, and that's good, where the other classes don't necessarily have that. I think it can be better. I don't know. We'll see. I have to test it a lot, but I think it's like my dark horse. Like, I don't think it's going to be insane, but I think it can do better than people might think it could. Yeah, I guess is all I'm saying.
The way in sort of the last meta you had to draft Druid was much faster. and you sort of went for more of a board-centric and snowballing sort of approach, which I think is a lot more difficult because of the AoE. The other thing you said is Druid drafts need a bit of luck, which I think that's one of the things, a bit like what you were saying about the Paladin, is that they have really good tools, but if you don't hit the tools, their average quality really shafts them. And I think that's one of the things where Rogue sort of does alright, Mage does well, and Warlock does well, is on average most of the things, I know they do, every class has got crap cards, but most of them do fairly alright, even if you're not hitting the premium cards. But like you're saying, if you're hitting the insane cards in Druid and Paladin, they can be insane, but on average, you just hit mediocre or even less than mediocre, which makes them a bit lackluster. And then Warrior.
I want to add something to the Druid thing. With Druid not having access to a lot of hard removals, I think it will struggle in this meta. I haven't drafted a Druid on my own so far in this meta, but I used to play Druid a little bit faster in the last meta, especially with Mark of the Lotus being an insane tempo card if you're on the board. And that card doesn't do much anymore because you don't get that many minions on the board. And especially not that fast. And if you want to play it later in the game, you could also afford the extra mana to play something that buffs your board even more. And especially with Mulch as the only hard removal. There's Naturalize as a tempo card.
Which is horrible. Since you're not playing... Meta.
Yeah, exactly. Since you're also, as a Druid, you probably also won't be able to play the tempo game. Naturalize is a terrible card if you can't use it to finish your opponent off in the next few turns, because you're not only giving him the value, you're also giving him options, which in a value meta is even worse than just the pure value he gets there.
Yeah, I think the point you make, if you're playing a tempo, so if you build a decent tempo deck and it can actually afford to play Naturalize and then sort of swing the board completely by putting a decent minion up, then it can be an absolutely great card still. It can still be fantastic, but I think it's a very, very fair point, the fact that giving your opponent 2 cards and 2 more options in a value-based meta when you're actively trying to go slower because Druid's struggling going fast, it all hurts. So I think Naturalize last meta was insane because you could play tempo, you didn't care at all about giving your opponent 2 cards. You were just going to go wide, you were going to buff your board, and you were going to hit hard, and it still struggled a bit doing that. But now going slower and giving your opponent cards, I think in a value meta it does really hurt. So you're down to Mulch, which Mulch works a lot like Sap, I feel. The fact that you take the minion off but you still give them an option, fair enough, the chance are it's probably not going to be quite as good as what you take off the board with it. But it's still, it's not just removing the card completely, it's more of a tempo card. The fact that you didn't gain card advantage from it, but what you did gain is tempo. So again, it's not quite as strong when you do in later games. You would probably prefer to spend an extra mana and do what a mage could do by like sort of polymorph, not just killing outright. So I think that's where I feel that Druid's struggling, is the fact that it struggles to remove, and if it does remove, it gives your opponent something for the removal, which doesn't really help.
The only thing that scares me for Druid is you play the big minion. They've got the spell to remove it. They've got that spell to remove, no matter what. They've got it.
Which means you need to draft heavy. Because you need to draft heavy to have enough stuff that can't remove them. Which means then you lack the tempo. Well, you potentially struggle to find the tempo because you haven't to draft a heavier deck. So
you drop your third 8/8 and it's like, come on, you can't have your third Flameland. Oh no, he does.
No, I think
he does.
It's a really weird spot for it. It is. It's a really weird spot for it, but it is. It's sort of stuck in the middle of everything. And I think the meta almost sort of just... There's no niche that it's really finding very easily. It's struggling to remove stuff, so it's struggling to play value, and it's struggling to play tempo, and it's just I think tempo itself, like sort of playing faster, the way Druid did in the MSOG, is really difficult to do anyway. And I think Rogue and Hunter do it, but only just.
I think the sooner Ungoro hits, the better for Druid.
I can see Ngoro helping. And that's something we shall definitely get on to once we finish that, because that's a massive thing.
I know.
So Druid, and then you're down to Warrior. Any thoughts on Warrior? Any games of Warrior? Any games against Warrior? I've seen very few Warrior.
Games against Warrior, I massacred them, but yeah.
yeah. That's
Same
experience.
That's about all I can tell you.
They exist, but they don't fight back.
we felt the same, yeah. And when you're doing all this cool stuff later game, like pinging with your hero power or drawing cards, the Warrior's like, I'll have 2 more health, please. And it's like, but our board's getting ever bigger. I'll have 2 more health, please. Okay, you can have that.
Go for it.
Yeah. Even if you have nothing on board, my ping does half of that anyway. So yeah, Warriors are struggling quite a lot.
Poor devils.
What do you want to go into? Do you want to talk about Ngoro, or would you like to talk about cards, winners and losers? I know I didn't even note Ngoro actually on stuff to discuss this week, but it's something we probably should do.
To Ngoro.
If you've not seen Ben Broad's rap, you need to go and see Ben Broad's rap. It's phenomenal. So yeah, I'll tell you what, we'll do a quick sort of fleeting address of Ngoro. Journey to Ngoro will be the next expansion.
And if you stick out to the end of this as well, Keludar said he was going to do a rendition of Journey to Ngoro by
He
Ben
did,
Broad.
we've already heard it. It's actually quite
really, really good.
So yeah, we've seen a couple of cards sort of spoiled for us. Spoiled sounds like the wrong term. Revealed. I think it's probably better. Yes.
Just a tip.
But I think what we'll probably do is it's probably not worth sort of discussing them yet. But I think we will. Is it 16th or something like that? 16th of March is going to be the start. So sort of a couple of weeks' time, I think we'll start running through and we'll do bigger sort of discussions on the cards.
Reveals and it'll be nice.
But more than anything, new mechanics. Elementals are going to be elementals.
Yay!
That's so cool. That's one of my favorite changes.
Yeah, and then the other mechanic is the adapt keyword. And I suppose the other one is quests, but I've got a feeling we'll probably not see quests in Arena. I know I've seen little bits of discussion where they didn't actively say no, there will be no quests in Arena, but they said we've got the technology to remove cards such as these from the Arena. So that sort of suggests they're probably not going to be there.
Well, we don't know yet, do we, that if every class is going to be getting a...
Every class is getting a quest.
Every class is getting a quest.
Yeah.
Alright.
Every class is getting 2 legendaries, which I assume is going to be 1 legendary minion in a quest, which then... So far, we've seen a legendary minion awarded for completing the quest, but I've got no idea. There might be other effects. No idea. But yeah, we'll address that probably in a couple of weeks whilst more changes come about. Also, if more things are leaked. So yeah, cards, winners and losers. Where do we want to start with that? Which cards are doing better in this meta than did in last meta, and which cards are doing worse than they did? Well, I'll tell you what, I'll kick off Discover cards. I found Discover cards were great anyway, but I found especially in this meta they're really strong. Like, especially stuff Ethereal Conjurer, what's the Jade one? The Lotus Agent?
Lotus Agent.
Yeah, stuff like that. They're great because in a value meta, you put down a half decent body, you go, okay, there's a half decent body, that needs to be dealt with. I'm also taking my card back. So you stay even on cards, you lose a card playing it on board, you take a card back to your hand. Your opponent's still got to more than likely spend a card to deal with it. I think that makes them really strong. The other thing is that value is finding efficient answers, and again, they give you efficient answers. So discovered...
Stop it, you're boring, Keludar.
Discovers I've liked a lot. Thanks, Boris. Would you like to take over?
I agree with the Discover thing, especially on the Lotus Agent, because it's a body that's big enough that your opponent will have to use a removal spell for it. I mean, it's an easy way to deal with them, but you're still 1 card ahead, though.
Yeah.
And usually they. Your opponent used to hit it with a smaller minion in the last meta, which was okay, but right now him using a 3 to 5 damage spell on that is better for you than him using just a 3/2 minion.
Drop, yeah.
And what else? Cards that do worse.
Potion of Madness.
Potion of Madness.
For the same reason, you're seeing fewer 2/3s, fewer minions with 2 attack, because everyone wants to do 3, because 3s are the start of the meta, so you see a lot of 3s which have 3 health. So yeah, Potion of Madness is one of those cards which was almost an auto-draft in Priest, and I would say I would seriously consider it now if you see it as just leaving it behind. Like, it's definitely not a dead card, but it's nowhere near as strong as what it was. Nowhere near.
You think?
Yeah, because
Carry on.
Go ahead. Oh, well, I was going to say, like, before, like, a lot of the games were tempo-based, so you'd play Potion of Madness, you'd literally get the tempo back and you'd just win. And now it just doesn't, even just the effect of removing one of their minions is just not nearly as powerful as it was,
And additionally, is the death rattles are fewer as well, so you can't do that steal of a haunted creeper and then take it. And we lost a few games like that where your opponent steals your haunted creeper, trades it into something else, and you just lose. That is pretty much game over. Your opponent just got so much tempo from that. That's definitely one of the cards I feel is doing poorer. Divine Shields, I think, are doing better. Well, they're still good, but they are now the new sticky minion. You had Death Rattle stuff, Sludge Belcher, your Pellet Tread, all that sort of stuff, were your minions which stuck around. Now they're gone. Yeah. Sticky is literally the occasional few Death Rattles. Go on, mate.
I can think of a game with Shady where a Scarlet Crusader literally just massacred us. Like, it was such a perfect play that, like, we literally had no chance. And I think one point I've realized as I've watched it, I was thinking about some of the things you were saying, like, there's not as much spread boards anymore. So before, like, you would have enough minions on the board where a small minion can easily just ping the shield and it doesn't do anything. Now where it's more one-on-one or 2 versus 3 or 2 versus 2, it's a totally different feel. The games last longer, and like the shields just don't really have as much impact. I mean, they have way more impact because of the fact that, like, now it's like, well, the only way to get through this Sunwalker, I had this happen last night with my buddy. He had like I think he had a 4/4 and a 3/4 or something. It's like, your only way to deal with this is you have to literally, like, you can't even double trade and kill this. You know what I mean?
We had the same. We got locked out by a Sunwalker not that long ago because you have, like you say, much more condensed boards. Your stats of the board might be similar to what they were, but they're now in 2 minions rather than 3. Or in 3 minions rather than 4. So I think you struggle to remove them. Like, we had exactly that thing where opponent put down a Sunwalker and we went, we can't triple trade that. They were all decent minions. Like,
you have to triple trade it. You can't even, like...
Yeah, like 4/4s and like 4/3s and stuff like that. It's like, I can't throw 3 things into that.
Pick all the
and lose them all.
Tempo. Yeah, they all died to it as well. Yeah, it was literally...
And then you're like, if I don't trade this terrible minion into the shield, the next minion I play, he's going to take that. So it's like, what do you do? You know?
Exactly that. So yeah, I found Divine Shields are very, very strong. Which, interestingly enough, what's the epic card which deals with Divine Shields very efficiently, which we're seeing a lot more of? Blood Knight. If you see it, take it.
Don't play him on tempo. You will get the buff.
No. If you need to play him on curve for tempo, you do.
You do it, and then what do they do? They drop the Grind Street Protector? Divine Shield the other side with the taunt?
That did happen to us the other day. That happened to us on Thursday, as we had to, like, it was so hard. We were playing against Paladin, we went, we're going to get some value out of this dude. The Blood Knight's sitting there. And then he basically made a whiteboard. He went, no, we need to play it for tempo. He went, cool, here's the Protector, Divine Shield either side, and just went face. We sort of just think, no, so much utility we lost there. But obviously if you need to play for tempo, you do. But it's just an insane card which really, really helps you out because it acts as a ping plus 3/3 on a minion. It's insane. But it was insane last meta as well. You just didn't see it. So what else? We've got card draws really important.
Yeah, I think I was saying, like, I don't say that these cards are good, but like Novice Engineer, like cycling through to get to your win condition now makes you just didn't have time to before to do those kind of things. Like if you sacrifice tempo to draw into your win condition, you would just lose instantly. There was no you can at least consider it. It's not always the right play still, but you can make those decisions and not get completely punished by it.
Yeah. And now you can even play it on turn 2 because you don't lose value or too much tempo if it's not just contested or eaten by your opponent's minion. Playing the Novice Engineer on turn 2 almost never was an option in the arena.
Exactly.
It was basically just a late game card to not completely mess up your curve.
Yeah. You basically took a card slot in your deck so you could have a life tap.
Yeah.
Basically, without the health. You literally took it as a just cycle, yeah.
Well, you know what? I did just think of something. As much as I'm saying that card draw is more important, the one card that really took a hit from this meta is Cult Master. That card used to be so insane. Now it's like...
Yeah, but...
It's not...
Go on.
I'm just saying it's not bad, but it's just not nearly as good as it was.
I think it struggles to survive, and because they are... The reason it was insane last meta was because of the unresolved board states.
Exactly.
Now board states are resolved fairly easily because you wipe it all up with an AoE if it gets too much. So yeah, I do agree that it's taken a hit, but it's still really powerful because if you can get a card off it, it sort of works like a cycle plus a body they have to remove.
Yeah.
And if you get 2 cards, then you're laughing. So I think as much as it's not quite as good, it's still really strong.
Yeah, like I would have rated it above average before, just a little bit, just barely. I mean, just not as good now, but it's still good.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah, still a really powerful tool. Yeah.
Yeah.
Taunts as well. What do you think about taunts?
I think that's an interesting point because I talked off stream to Keludar, who suggested taunts as a topic here, and we kind of have very polarizing opinions on that. Oh, cool. Why don't you go first?
Oh wait, that way you get to respond and tell me I'm wrong. I don't know if I like that. No. It's funny when you made your point. Like I see both sides of the coin a little bit more. I think taunts, like there's not as much tempo cards where you need taunts to protect yourself, but I do think that it does give you. You want to play to the value game now, so I think that the taunts help stall the game. I think like the deck that I had with my priest, like it really helped me to like get to that win condition because if I would face a faster deck, like the only way that I was gonna lose was if I faced like a mid-range or a little bit more aggressive deck, and it was basically just protection. I drafted it not because I thought it was the best card, but because I knew that the only way that I was going to lose games was against tempo. So it was just basically a couple tech. It was almost like a tech card. You know what I mean? So I guess I think that it helps get to your win condition in the value game a little bit. I guess that's kind of the way I look at it. So.
Yeah, I mean, I get your point there because. In meta with heavier hitters, usually a taunt absorbs more damage than it used to do. It oftentimes has to be overkilled with damage, especially the mediums sized or smaller taunts. But on the other hand, in a meta with way more spells, removal spells around, taunts are less reliable than they used to be. If you drop a taunt and say, "Okay, this saves me from dying," your opponent removes it with a spell and keeps hitting your face. Yeah, that's not a great feeling.
Yeah, no. I think when you're drafting, like, I wouldn't say that taunts are great or taunts are rubbish or anything like that. I think they're situational. And I think we need to look at them as situational cards because remember, in a value-based meta as well, making value trades is super, super valuable. And if you can get 2 for 1 on a minion which would struggle to otherwise, then you're getting great value there. The other thing to remember, though, is that taunts are substatted because they've got taunt. So there's argument for both sides, is that you're taking actually a minion which, if you're doing straight-up 1 for 1 trades, is going to perform worse because it doesn't have as good stats. Right. But if it allows decent trades, then it's got benefits there. Yeah. So yeah, I think it's difficult. Like we've taken stuff like Ancient of Blossoms, and that's worked pretty nicely. But I think that sort of works well as well because it has to be removed by like a Flame Lance, and your opponent probably doesn't want to burn a Flame Lance on it. I think Ancient of Blossoms is in a wonderful spot as a taunt. That although it doesn't trade greatly well, it generally survives an attack with most things, so it just about does, and it allows you to dictate trades. But yeah, I think some taunts, definitely smaller taunts, aren't quite as valuable. I think the ones with larger health, like I can give you I actually had Ancient of Blossoms in the priest deck. It had 2 Novas and 1 Excavated, and it totally helped set up the board clears that you do have because they can't, like, it doesn't kill all their minions because it doesn't have a lot of attack. Like three attack is not necessarily going to kill everything, but it'll ping stuff down enough where your board clear suddenly has. I think that's the other point I didn't say when I originally talked is that
because the board clears are more prevalent. That is a benefit for taunts. But it is dependent on your draft and what you have, and that's why I took the blossoms. Is I had 3 clears, and I'm like, oh, this will be perfect. If I need a way to like get some of these larger health minions down, then I can just play this, and then I'll have to run 3 of them into it, and then I clear. So.
Yeah, that's another thing we've done with Ancient of Blossoms, is use it to set up AoEs, because your opponent's bumps everything in, everything survives. They then overextend, because people seem to really, really struggle to not play anything. Like, they look at the board, and the board sort of goes, there's a lot on this board, I'll be punished by AoE. I can't pass turn though, I can't just hero power, which you can. At points in this meta, you really can afford to do that. Like, I've seen people playing AoE a lot. But yeah, going back to the Ancient of Blossoms is the fact that he's bumped 3 minions into it. He then develops another 2 minions onto the board because he can't bear to not play cards this turn. And then you use AoE and wipe it all as well, which is insane. So yeah, I think that's partially people misplaying because they don't look at the board and go, he can't do enough to this board to actually put him ahead, so let's not play anymore. And they play straight into basically your value game, which is insane. So yeah, Tauns are great for that.
Let me just say that. Oh, go ahead.
The thing with the Ancient of Blossoms is, if you look at the board clears, Warlock is the only one that has board clears no matter what size of minions you face, with Doom and Twisting Nether. All the other classes do have AoE, but it's small to medium-sized AoE. Even in Mage, you don't see Flame Strikes that often, but you do see the 2 damage AoEs in form of Volcanic Potion and Blizzard. Yeah. And you need to set those up with minions like Ancient of Blossoms. And oftentimes I was in a spot where I had to use a heart removal to kill my opponent's Ancient of Blossom, although I wanted to use that heart removal on a taunt with more attack, but I knew if I don't clear this with a spell and I put all my minions in, and even though they do survive, I'm playing into those small AoEs. Yeah. And if my minions stay at like 4 to 5 health, he will at least have to use 2 of his AoE spells to get rid of them.
What have so Taunts we didn't discover. Warlock's discard cards, I think they're in an odd space because they were generally really good as tempo cards. Stuff like Soulfire was a really good tempo card, but now it costs you a card, which, if you've got the time to generate another card by tapping, that's kind of alright. Well, if you've got time and health, which you generally have a bit more health going into the late game. But I think, you need to be a lot more careful with discards because tempo's generally more difficult. To play like a sort of tempo-heavy list is more difficult because of the curving out and being able to wipe. So I think, discards are a bit of an odd one as well.
Yeah, I did a Warlock run with Shady, and so we actually drafted Twisting Nether first, thinking that and then we ended up getting a tempo deck, and the Nether was completely useless the whole way. We never even used it properly one time. But the Soulfire, it didn't cost us games, luckily, but it definitely hurt our chances in at least 4 games, really badly, because it threw away an Abyssal, it threw away. I mean, it just threw away cards that we wanted, and it was like we couldn't sacrifice the tempo at the time to not remove something, but. I know Dark Bomb doesn't exist anymore, but it used to always be is Dark Bomb better or is Soulfire better to draft, because it would come up all the time, and if it was still around, I would take the Dark Bomb 100% now over Soulfire. But it doesn't. I guess it doesn't matter because it's not here. But you know what I'm saying.
Any other cards?
Stealth.
Yeah. Well,
stealth.
Stealth is so strong. Yeah, we mentioned stealth before. Stealth is really, really good in this meta because, again, it allows you to get your value trades, which is super handy. And it also allows you to push face if you want to, which is super handy again. So rogues are generally doing pretty nicely with the stealth because if they need to play value, you can get 2 for 1, stuff like that, especially with the Lotus Assassin. And if you want to go face, then your minion sticks around.
One card I've noticed that playing out more in this meta now, Streetwise Investigator, bringing it out of stealth, that surprise of that doesn't have stealth anymore.
Yeah, so you can target it with this with a spell, and also in Rogue, just to mention that the what's it called, Shadow Master, Shadow Sensei, the one that buffs stealth minion, that's also a rare. You get that offered quite often, and also a lot of epic cards being really shitty, and Rogue having the Lotus Assassin on that slot. That's also a nice card to pick up. You with Rogue nowadays, you've got a pretty good chance of hitting that buff on the Shadow Sensei.
Yeah. I mean, I think I might have mentioned it before, but that one example with the Excavator where I played a Worgen on one and I literally didn't move it for 4 turns, but it was super powerful. You know what I mean? So definitely stealth is up for sure.
Yep. Anything else we want to run by before we close? Do we have any other cards? Or any other thoughts generally about
the only one I really wanted to talk about was Streetwise Investigator, because I've noticed stealth was more prominent now.
I mean, I think, yeah. I think I'm really enjoying the increase of epics and legendaries. I'm thoroughly enjoying that in general. It's just the decisions in drafting is actually just a lot more fun. You know, I like it a lot. I'm excited about going forward.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also seeing all those legendary and epic cards which do have fancy effects.
Yeah.
It makes your games feel more different every game. It's not just we played vanilla minions on curve, and we did trade on board with our minions, and it's basically the same thing.
Exactly.
That makes your games feel more epic. And
like
if even if you lose in an epic way to a legendary, it might feel a bit frustrating. But those are the losses I'm the least salty about.
I agree with you on that.
If I get a good experience and a wow effect.
You just owned your board for Boogie Monster, and you're just like,
you weren't there for us dropping that Doomsayer, wiping the Warlock's board. Dropped, not Doomsayer, Deathwing. And we were like, now we've got this. Then he goes, okay, Twisted Nether. Then plays that, what was it, River Croc? They're like, shit. Then, what was it, top decked? It was like, it was a 1-2 or something like that. And we're like, oh, fuck.
It did make for an epic game. It was sort of like, we're stuffed. You top deck the Deathwing, slammed it down. It was like, cool, this game's ours. No. Of course, the Warlock's got hard removal. That goes, and then it literally, it went back to just playing shit again, and it did. It made for an epic game, which I know that is one thing Blizzard's massive about, is making these epic stories. Which generally players like us who are generally fairly decent don't like the epic stories as much, because they come down to RNG, and we like the sort of consistency, the skill.
You like the consistency.
It's quite nice, seeing the legendaries which can swing games, and you get a little bit miffed by it. But
we've only drafted 1 legendary so far as well.
I know we've drafted everyone's got 2 in about 4 decks or something like that. Yeah, it's terrible.
But I want more. I want like triple legendary deck where all legendaries are utter crap.
I'm planning on doing. I gotta do the meme draft where I'm only allowed to pick gold cards. That's gonna be fun.
That sounds good.
The bling draft.
Great, sounds good. I think following this, what we'll do is we'll do a run with Keludar. I think, are you running away, Boris?
Yes. I mean, do you draft the run, or do you play a pre-drafted deck? Because I'd probably stay for the draft and then leave to play Horizon Zero Dawn.
Okay, I think I would quite like to do a draft if we can find a draft or two on one of our accounts, because I think drafts it's a nice thing to follow the podcast. It's just discussing through how we're drafting. Yeah. So I think we'll find that. We'll do a draft. So what we'll do is we'll let Walker leave you for an inspirational quote, and we'll not be right back on. So we'll have ourselves 5 minutes, get them sorted out, and then we'll fire up with a run for you guys. So anyone who's sort of been listening and enjoying it, hang around, and we'll jump into a run very, very soon.
Yeah.
So we'll leave you with the inspirational quote of the week, guys, and thank you very much for listening and watching.
Remember, guys, Don't judge a babbling book by its cover. See you later.
Cheers, guys.
Bye.
Take care.